Good evening, Complete Angler 2 here for a question and answer session. I've had a few emails and questions from other fellow anglers who have sort of been following the show, and so I'll just go through the questions one by one. And so the first question I've got is from Mike H. Tips for keeping worms in healthy condition. Winter time isn't too much of an issue. Lugworm, ragworm, it's not too much of an issue at all. They do have to be kept cold. I usually dig my own and place them in a fridge, about 7 degrees, something like that. Winter time, I sometimes wrap them in fresh newspaper when I bring them back from the beach, and I just lay them in the garage on the cold concrete, and that seems to be quite effective as well, keeping them cold. In the summertime, if you're fishing with a lugworm, you really want one of those, like a Coleman's Cool Box or something like that, a small one of those, and you want to put some ice packs underneath. And you just want to sort of have your lugworm in the paper, which you've fresh newspaper, which you've sort of put them in, lay them in there, and basically just shut down the lid and keep them out of sunlight. If you're on a hottish sort of day or a warm sort of day, it doesn't take long for lugworm to go off. So you want to keep them out of the sun and just to keep the lid on and keep them cool, sort of thing. And when you bring them out one at a time, shut the lid down. And you'll see that they're still cold when you pick them up, even if it's quite like nearly 20 degrees outside. So generally sort of in the early sort of springtime when it's still quite cold and the early season sort of bass fishing happens, generally don't have to sort of worry too much about them, just put them in your tackle box and they'll be alright. But when it starts to warm up a bit, maybe sort of a warmish day in June and you're going bass fishing and using lugworm, so you want to invest in a sort of good cool box if you can, or cool bag with the frozen coolers, cylinder sort of plasticky sort of things, which sort of freeze you leave in your freezer. It doesn't take long for them to go off. So okay, it's a good question there. What else we got here? So D-Lo, bridle ringing a mackerel onto circle hooks for shark. How are they achieved? Okay, so we're going back to my New Zealand days here, when I had my boat. We had an hour or two trying a live bait to see what we could get. And what I was doing, I was aware the live bait with the mackerel, when you just hook it through the nose, that if you leave it down there for a while and you just want to leave it fishing, there's always a concern that it might sort of wiggle and create a little bit of a gap in the nose, and then all of a sudden it pulls through, especially if the barb is quite small. So I come up with an idea of buying those little micro cable ties. So what I would do, I'd put the hook through the nose, the thread, the mini cable tie through there as well. This is when the mackerel's still alive, or just in the bucket of water, or in the live well tank, which I had on board my boat. And you just nip it down tight to the nose, not too tight, but fairly tight, and then just snip it off. And then you know that the hook is secure. It's tight to the nose. Do you know what I'm saying? There's no way you can just put it down there and leave it fishing. And lo and behold, 15 minutes later, line starts going off, and not big taupe, but quite small taupe were whacking into the live bait. And you're getting a hook up with just one hook, one biggish sort of hook through the nose, maybe sort of a 460, something like that. So that was quite interesting. So you can also go through the eyes. You can sort of thread the cable tie through the top of the eyes, through that bit there, thread it through, then put the hook. Now that's an option. You can do that. But I just found it easier just nipping it through the hook. You could probably get away with just putting the hook through the nose anyway. Probably get away with it. I would say, to be quite honest, especially if you're just lowering it down, and that's just where you're going to be fishing, so to speak. But if you're trolling, it might be a bit different. But you just have to sort of juggle it really. Okay, so the next question, what we got? So Nick King, lure fishing. How to stop hooks from rusting up? How to stop hooks from rusting up? I simply, when I get in, I grab all the lures I used on the day. I go to the sink, and I literally just rinse them. And I try and do the rod as well. Sometimes I'll put the rod through a bit of fresh water as well, if there's been a bit of mist got on the rings and stuff like that. So I rinse them down and just leave in a position, leave the lures on the top of the sink just to drain, and I'll leave them there, and then I'll put them away maybe the next day or something like that. I'll always rinse them with fresh water, and I find, you very rarely have to change the hooks. I mean, even if the hooks are sort of quite rusty, as long as they're sharp, razor sharp, even if they're rusted up a little bit, it should be fine, really. But yeah, just to sort of keep your swivels and your split rings in good condition, I just rinse them. Because you usually, with expensive lures, you usually get quite good hooks anyway, so you've got to try and look after them. You don't want the hassle of changing them over and the expense, and just the hassle of changing them, really. But any doubt, just change them over. Okay, what else we got? JB Fishing. Most boats have at least one GPS unit plus several mobile phones. Is it necessary to have a compass? Yes, I always had a compass on the boats I've had. I've had 2 boats, always had a compass. A compass doesn't need any battery or any energy like that. It's just self-sufficient. It's something you can always rely on. If you've been fishing before, and I have a few times when a blanket of fog just comes right in over you. It's very, very scary actually. And just looking at the compass so you know which way the land is just a sort of very reassuring. And it's like, sometimes your GPS unit on your sounder and all that, if you have issues with your sounder, it like packs up, or there's battery issues, or there's just something out of the ordinary, just a fault or something like that, you've always got in your back of your mind, you've got the compass and you know which way the shore is, especially if you're a long way offshore, lo and behold, and you just reassurance that you know which way it is, so it's very essential to have, and they're really cheap as well. You can get one, you can get a proper boat one for like 30 quid or something like that. You can get a top end one, but then what I'm saying is they're quite cheap, and it's definitely an essential for me. So another question here from 924 8ball. Are rigs intended for shore fishing suitable on a float? So I suppose rigs you buy, for shore fishing, are they any good for use on a boat? Yes, they are. If you're anchored up, and let's just say you buy a 2-hook paternoster or a 3-hook paternoster or something like that, there's no reason why you can't use them off a boat. A lot of the rigs you buy for shore fishing, you can use for up-tide fishing. So any rigs you've got for the shore, you use them afloat. It's the same. The principles still apply. What else have we got here? So from G Stone, when towing another boat, how long should the rope be? So if you're towing another boat, which I never have, but I do know it's about 30 to 50 feet. I suppose it's how big the boat is, how heavy the boat is, and stuff like that. If it's just another trailer boat who's in a muddle and his engine's packed up, you could probably just use a bit of your anchor rope in an emergency, and obviously he attaches it to his cleat. I'd probably sort of say about 30 to 50 feet. If it's calm, you won't have too much of an issue, and you can probably pick up a bit of speed. But if it's choppy and where the boats are doing different things, will drop your speed right down low, and when you just accelerate very slowly. Do you know what I'm saying? And just take your time. And so I'd say about 30 to 50 feet for that. Okay, what else we got here? So we've got another question from JB Fishing. Do circle hooks catch more fish? Do circle hooks catch more fish? I wouldn't say they catch more fish. They probably catch about the same as any other hook. What we do know about circle hooks is they are particularly pretty good at stopping fish from being deep hooked. For some reason, they always seem to find the corner of the mouth. Just the way the fish picks up the bait and the way the hook won't necessarily just go right in where he's swallowed it down, and the hook will move out and sort of fold and then just catch in the corner of his mouth, and in it goes. So very effective of that. Do I fish with circle hooks? Sometimes I prefer to use them for live baiting, sort of a reassurance that the hook's more difficult for the live bait to wriggle off. And with a circle hook, if you're live baiting for bass or something like that, you don't really have to strike. You just literally just have to let the fish tap away, load up, and with the tide and the boat movement, you just let the fish and just wind. And that hook's just in the corner of the mouth. Freshwater fish as well. I've seen pike. I've seen fishermen fishing for perch and catching pike, and that just gets them right in the corner of the mouth. It's amazing, really. So it stops them from getting deep hooked, which is key. That's an important one for conservation and stuff like that. What have we got here? Andy P. How do I help prevent wind knots when lure fishing for bass? Wind knots. Wind knots. I've found with buying cheaper braid that it does have a tendency to wind knot. I find if you don't fill the spool, classic one with mono in the old days, you used to put on a load of backing, and then you have the mono tight to the top, and mono hardly ever sort of had any problems with that whatsoever. So when braid come on the scene, start to do the same thing, and kiss of death. I find that if you just if you don't put any backing on at all, just put your braid on, leave it quite a way down, not ridiculously way down, but definitely not to the top. I find even with cheaper braid, then that'll stop it from sort of going out so quickly. It's a bit of a mystery, the old wind knots. Another one I've found to get over it is investing in some top end braid. I use a 131 Surfix. It's quite expensive, about 45 quid, something like that. You might be able to get it for like 42 quid or something like that. And I use the 17 pound, and I put that under all sorts of extra loadings, whacking it, stiff winds behind me, just whacking it, and don't get any wind knots with it at all, because it's very circular and it's got like this resin coating around it, and it's almost like trying to turn it back into like a mono again, and don't have any issues with that. So I find the more money you spend on a braid, the less chance you can have any problems with it. But again, don't fill it so much, and it's and with also, if you are conscious about wind knots being a problem during bite time, when you spend a lot of money and fuel and you get in there and you need to be fishing, and then also on these wind knots letting you down, all I would say is when it gets towards bite time, right, don't go so crazy with your casting. A lot of the fish are sort of, you don't need to sort of cast to the horizon. You just need to fish and just in a relaxed fashion. Just keeping your head and not do anything crazy, and get some wind knots when the fish are biting, and then you're having to sort of deal with all these problems and you're not actually fishing. You know what I'm saying? So it's all about just like yes. Okay. So what else have we got? I think we have one more. Could you ever see a time when, this is from TJ, you go bass fishing with soft plastics only? Soft plastics only. Yes. No. I mean, I bring a few soft plastics with me. I wouldn't say it's my forte. Depends where you're fishing. If you're fishing very shallow, kelpy sort of areas, you really want your weedless shads or paddle tails or worms or whatever really. but I generally, I mean, poppers would work in that situation as well. Yeah, it's a bit. Yeah, I always bring a selection. But wherever I'm fishing, I like to. If I'm scoping out an area, even if I've not been there before, visited before, you can do a lot of groundwork on Google Earth. You can get a rough idea what's going to be like, stage of the tide. So I'll bring lures what I think are going to do it, and I'll also have in the back of my mind saying, oh well, this I might be able to try these, and I might be able to try them. So I use a mixture. To be honest, I generally use metals for bass, and expensive lures I generally use around sort of high tide, plugs and things, because I find using plugs around low water, you're more than likely going to find some snags. And if you're using thin braid, you are likely to sort of get hooked up, and you ain't got the gear to And some of these lures have got like 3 trebles in them. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's just a gone. It's like 25 quid, boom, gone. So I'm sort of quite selective on when I actually use what lures. Do you know what I'm saying? So I'm conscious about losing the lure as well as what other lures I could get away with that were probably going to do the same thing. So yeah, I mean, if it's low water, shallow, your weedless, soft plastics are gonna work good. Especially ones where you can sort of insert the rattle to it as well. The rattle is very effective. Poppers are pretty good over shallow area as well. But I generally like to use poppers when it's not clear and it's not completely murky. A popper with a good rattle in it as well. But if the water's murky, I like to use bright sort of lures. I like to use like old rainbow trout sort of spinners, with bright pink or white and with another colour in it, and a metal as well. So you get a lot of sort of vibration and shudder. And I find with bass, slowing it down is good as well. So with a metal spinner, you can't always slow it down so much. A heavy one, that's going to sink to the bottom. So I find the little small ones, the little plate ones, maybe 14 gram, you can very slowly retrieve it, against the tide as well, and that picks up the metal a bit higher up. So it's all about sort of just judging the conditions on what you can get away with. And another thing I would say with the old lure fishing is, like, if you can see some birds feeding, if you can see little bait fish in close, or a few little bait fish sort of jumping out of the water, then I would say change your gear to suit that size bait fish. A little metal Abu Toby, 14, 15 gram, something like that. If you start seeing things like that, change your gear to suit that, and you'll be surprised what that they will take. I mean, obviously if the fish are there, they're gonna crash into your bigger lures, which look a little bit But I'm just saying, that's like that's the way to do it. Yeah, so I always bring a mixture. Right, so that's the questions. Hope you enjoyed the questions. Please keep writing in. Yeah, I love answering your questions. Thank you very much for following the channel, and no doubt we'll be on here again, and we'll do some more questions. Hope you're enjoying the videos. If there are any particular videos you want me to cover, or I have in my mind some which I'm looking to do anyway, but obviously if there's some particular subjects or something you want me to sort of to go through, which I may have not gone through myself, so I'll be interested to learn myself. So yeah, alright, I will see you later, guys, and I'll see you next time out. Okay, see you then, bye bye.